Is your practice tired of wrestling with insurance denials, deciphering EOBs, and watching your revenue slip through the cracks? You are not alone. Welcome to The Claim Game, the podcast designed to cut through the confusion and provide you with the best practices for revenue cycle management success. We are Jeremy and Catherine Zug, and we've been with people just like you in the trenches. Each week, we'll break down complex billing processes, share real-world solutions from practices like yours, and ask questions of the game makers and changers of healthcare so you can take control of your revenue. Let's turn those claim denials into deposits and help you return to focusing on patient care. It's time to win the claim game.
Well, thanks for being on the podcast, Nicole. It's great to see you again. Thanks for being on the Claim Game.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. You talk about your practice, where you're located, and what launched you into running your own practice.
Yeah, so I'm in Henderson, Nevada, right outside of Las Vegas, Nevada. I've had my group practice since 2016. We have 23 therapists. We are an insurance-based practice by choice. When I was growing up, I went to therapy and my family couldn't afford it if we had to pay cash. And so it was really important to be able to provide good quality care to a variety of socioeconomic statuses. We're 95% insurance-based. Our niches are trauma, kids, and faith-based. That makes up about 75% of who we see. So we just instituted our first level of, I guess, what you would call middle management, which is turned into a bad term, but we're really excited. So we have our leadership team and then now pod leaders. And yeah, it's great. It's definitely a new season for me where I'm leading leaders, and I'm learning all the caveats and things that come along with that, but I like it.
So you're celebrating 10 years this year?
10 years in November.
That's unbelievable. That's a huge milestone, Nicole.
Yeah, it's really felt like it's gone so fast. It's crazy. But yeah, it is a big milestone. So yeah, I think I might have like a little birthday party for the group.
Is that an idea you just came up with just now?
No, some people have been encouraging me. I feel like there's this wave of group practices that are turning 10. And so others have done something similar. I was talking to a few people at the conference that we saw each other last. I was like, oh yeah, maybe I will do that because I feel like it's important to like take a moment and like pause.
Oh my gosh. Yes, of course you should. Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. 10 years is a lot changes in 10 years. Can you believe you were like 10 years younger when you started this thing?
I was 10 years younger and 3 children fewer. I think that's the thing that's like the craziest of the whole, I was newly married and then now 10 years later, I feel like I have 3 actual children and a 4th in the group practice. I don't mean that in any demeaning way, but I had always said like, oh, I want another, to my husband, I want to have another kid. I want us to have another kid. And he's like, we have a 4th in your practice. And he's not wrong. Like there are some times where like the practice feels like it takes all the emotional energy of my whole family and other times where I feel like it's the easiest kid by far.
Wow. Wow. You and I are in the same boat. We had the company before we had 3 kids. So it's hard to decide. Some days it's easy to decide which one I'd rather spend time with.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Yeah. No, that's cool. How old are your kids?
So they are 7, 6, and 4. I have 2 boys and a girl.
It's a heavy lift for sure, being mom and being boss. So, but you're doing it. You're here.
I'm doing it. I'm loving it.
Oh, that's great. So for everybody listening, Nicole, this is her practice audit episode. She was gracious enough to take our self-guided PHC through the hourglass and sent me her scores. And we've known each other for a while, so it felt like a natural fit. But I am pleased to announce that you have, out of all the practice audit episodes that I've recorded to date, you have the highest score of anybody I've interviewed. So I feel like in November there should be like a birthday and I should send you like a trophy, like a claim game trophy for like winning the year. So congrats to you.
I would be super flattered.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I probably should do that, honestly. That's
Yeah.
not a bad idea. I'll write that one
Yeah,
down
yeah. Even
later.
a verbal trophy goes a long
Even
way.
just, yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
yeah, right now you get the award. So,
yeah,
and I don't think you're making it up. That's the other thing on like assessments sometimes, and you know this, like sometimes people can lie good
yeah,
or lie bad. I
yeah,
don't think that's
yeah.
happening. So I want to go through the domains and kind of talk through, for my edification, for everybody else's edification, what in
Mhm.
the world you were doing to get these kind of scores. So patient registration, you got an 89%
Mhm.
at patient registration. So how in the world do you get your front office team to capture so accurately the data that you have?
Yeah. Okay. So, I think like, is it okay if I 30,000 foot and then
For
I can go
sure.
micro?
For sure.
Okay, so I would say the key to our success with billing is twofold. The first is we use a task management software, and I think that that's just absolutely essential. Honestly, from day one, even if you're a sole proprietor doing your own billing, because we don't use any mental energy tracking when we need to do the next thing. That's all set up in our task management system. And then our task is to just do the next thing. So our task management holds all of our AR when we're supposed to follow up, the cadence of that. And then we have a pretty dialed process in terms of someone doesn't like pay their copay, task management, it triggers a follow up. So all of those things. So I feel like that's huge because the key, I think, with billing, you can just get buried so fast and there's so many different timelines that it can't be understated how much mental energy that is. So I feel like that's one, and so I'm going to keep referring back to the task management system that I
Which is what?
use.
Which system? You
So
can
I
say.
use Asana. Asana has a fun factoid. Asana gives a BAA. So it's a BAA that allows for like basic PHI, like we're not keeping any patient records or anything in there, but a BAA nonetheless. A couple other of them allow it as well. And then, okay, so then the second one is I was a biller from day one, not by trade, but taught myself. And I
Hmm.
don't think that all owners need to be in the weeds of knowing every detail about billing, but I do think that it's important that whoever is doing oversight, so that's no longer mean that's now the director of operation, understands how billing works. Because if you don't, you're very much in the dark. And I don't think you can create good systems and processes.
No,
Um, I think those are the two things that I'll like probably keep coming back to, or they're just sort of overarching this whole thing. But
they're
with
baked
patient
into your
registration,
culture, right? Like
it's
those are the
baked
things
into
that
the culture.
are like, yeah, yeah. You've staked your flag on.
Yeah, yeah. Like we don't have, and it's funny today when I was preparing for this podcast, I was a little anxious because I was like, oh, what if, because I'm a stickler for compliance, and I'm like, I hope Jeremy doesn't tell me anything that I'm doing wrong. But then I guess that would be a good thing because then I could fix it. But
No
anyhow,
gotchas here. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So right from the beginning, we focus on getting all the information that we need from the front desk correctly first so that we don't have unclean claims. So all of the clients have to fill out all the paperwork before they can get on the calendar.
Mm.
So that's a system that we put in place a few years ago, and it really prevents any oopsie daisies from slipping through. So we make it super easy for paperwork to be completed. It's not a multi-step process. Paperwork only takes 10 minutes. We've really consolidated it down so it's clean and clear for the clients, but they do have to completely fill that out before they can go on the calendar. So we know, and the client knows, what their copay is and what they can expect, what their deductible is before they even go on the calendar.
Now, is that a function of you know the payers you're in network with so well that you can just, it's automatic at this point?
Say more about that. Like we know what the copay and whatnot is.
Yeah, like you know the copays, you know the plans really well, you know what the benefits are. You know when something looks fishy on a card, right?
Um, Sort of. I would say it's more a feature of the office manager training the intake coordinators really, really well.
Mm.
So the intake coordinators know how to read benefits. And yeah, we have a really thorough process of, like 90% of insurance um, benefit checks are routine. But 10% can take 90% of the effort. And so she's done a really good job of almost creating not a blacklist because we continue to take them, but a red flag list, I guess, if you will. Here's what the card looks like. Here's what the back looks like. This is a carve out plan. Here's where to look instead. Like that.
This happens all the time, right?
All the time.
Like, oh, I saw this client for 4 sessions. I realized they had a carve out or they're a Medicaid plan, even though their card said BCBS, right? It happens all the time. For sure. Yeah. Now, how many insurance companies do you network with?
We are in network with, I would say 5 mains. And then of that, there's a few shoot offs from each.
See, so that's a lot of complexity to manage.
It is a lot of complexity. So like by that, I mean like Blue Cross Blue Shield, commercial Medicaid, United Healthcare, commercial So like 5 main companies, but then in total, probably 10 with the subsidiaries. Yeah.
See, now that's a lot. You take that times the number of clinicians you have, and that's how many panels you're managing. So it's a lot.
Correct.
Folks. I mean, that's a big ship to turn for sure.
Yep. And honestly, we had to really dial down our credentialing process here in the last year because of that. Again, just like managing the timelines. And this is where a task management system also comes into play of like, I sent this last, this is what goes out next. And really just like keeping us on a pattern and not missing that next thing.
You have a workflow in Asana set up for credentialing?
We do.
That's very smart.
Yeah. My director of operations made it. It's killer. So it has everybody and then it has like the insurance companies, what she should look at this month.
That's really smart, Nicole. I mean, there's a reason why your score is so good. And we'll definitely get to credentialing. And I know your practice, but other people may not. Training is a big feature of like training development, making sure you know your people really well. Can you talk a little bit about why that's become baked into your culture?
Yeah. So the why I started reTHINK was I wanted to provide more access, but I also wanted to provide opportunities for newly graduated therapists to be trained because at the time there wasn't a ton of opportunity in Nevada for that. So it's really been the cornerstone of reTHINK since day one of training and development. So that started with therapists and it's extended through the administrative staff as well. So yeah, we take a long time to train because we believe that a well-trained employee is one that can think independently, not that can complete a task.
Interesting. I love that.
We want them to be able to globalize the knowledge that we're giving them.
Oh, I love it. Now, I have a question for you. So I interviewed Danielle Hayes recently, who sold a 150 therapist all cash pay practice.
Nice.
And she mentioned it takes 5 years for a clinician to fully, I think she said season, but like the idea was like bake, right? Or like cook. Is that what you're seeing? Or is there a way to shorten the 5-year seasoning for a clinician?
I would say it's pretty accurate. Maybe 4 years. Okay, so in 2 years, we can take a graduate to licensed in 2 years, and they're licensed, but I wouldn't call a newly licensed therapist necessarily a seasoned therapist.
No, right.
So the 3 years post-license is really where the rubber hits the road, and you're hopefully dialing down on your specialty and getting just hour after hour after hour of specialty work. So that's really why we've niched down to 3 things, particularly with EMDR. We want our EMDR and trauma therapists to be doing trauma session after trauma session after trauma session, because 1, that's what they desire in their specialty, but 2, that's what's going to make them more specialized in trauma work. I've always said, like, I'm an EMDR therapist and consultant, and I've said I've probably done 10,000 EMDR sessions and trauma sessions, but don't send me a couple. I've done maybe 50 of those.
Send me a couple.
Yeah, like I could do it legally and ethically, but I don't know that you want me to. So I think her statement of 5 years would really get at that whole like 10,000 hours to be an expert. And I would agree with that. If I had a bunch of therapists who had been in the field and well-trained for 5 years, I'd be really comfortable.
Oh, wow.
Giving them just about anything that they were specialized to.
Oh, wow. Well, it's good to know. It's good to hear. I mean, what you'll find in these practice audit episodes and a lot of those kind of interviews is there are some very distinct overlapping similarities, right? Like training is important, staff development is important, systems are important. So you'll start to hear those for sure. All right. So patient registration is dialed in. Asana is a big deal there. Your intake coordinator has really gotten the team cinched down. Yeah, an 89% grade. I mean, you can almost round that up to 90%. There's not a whole lot of improvement there. That other 10% is probably just insurance shenanigans that you're just going to have to deal with. Yeah. Or would you say that 10% is something else?
I would say the 10% comes from, we could always do better for sure, but sometimes young adults don't know their benefits. They don't know they're still on mom and dad's plan and they get their first job.
Oh, yeah.
And so they report the wrong insurance, and that's where most of our like issues with verification come from, I would say, typically.
Yeah, it happens all the time. Yeah, people don't know how insurance works, and that's okay. I mean, you're just going to deal with people. So, but for what you have, I mean, it's not a bad rate there, Nicole.
Thanks.
All right, so next, well, this is your lowest grade, aging follow-up. You got an 86%, which, by the way, that's a very good grade, generally speaking. So maybe there are some bottlenecks here that we can iron out, but how often is your team looking at an aging report, right? Are they like looking at the macro data, sort of the 30,000 foot view every day, every week? When are you looking at it? Take us through the process there.
Yeah, so the office manager, this is her KPI, and she looks at it 1 to 2 times a week, but at minimum weekly, because her follow-up with her supervisor, the director of operations, on this is weekly. So her responsibility is to keep things 3% or under.
Talk about that. What does that mean? 3% or under what?
3%. All paid claims need to be paid by the 60-day mark. And her goal is that 97% of the claims need to be paid by the 60-day mark.
Got it. Yeah.
So she can only have 3% over 60 days.
I got you.
And she's bonused on that. We feel like the bonuses have been really incentivizing for the office manager to be able to have some skin in the game on that. I would say that our biggest SAP here, and I'm interested in your thoughts on this, our third party like UMR. So you can call a different number based on the employee group, and there's not a direct line of access. If you call back, you're going to get somebody different. And lots of times you're a better expert than the person on the other end of the phone. So our messiness has come with some of our insurance companies are listing out of network, even though we're in network, and getting that straightened out with a third party payer is incredibly time consuming.
Oh yeah, it's a big drain.
That honestly, from time to time, I think about dropping them, like think about dropping some of the third party payer work or the insurance companies that hold them as a result, because just from a cost benefit analysis.
Well, let's do some quick math then. So UMR, and just give me generalities, because we don't want to disclose anything that you don't want published. But well, let's start here. How many claims a week do you think you're doing?
We do 500 claims a week.
Okay, that's a lot. How many of those are UMR?
UMR is probably only about 10% of that.
Okay.
So like
so 50? 50 a week?
Yeah, about 50, I would say.
Okay, so that's not nothing.
It's not nothing.
Okay, and then generally speaking, don't give the exact number, but what is the revenue, like the total revenue per week that makes up for your practice?
I would say that it would be probably, let's say, between 5,000 and 6,000.
Okay, and then how many of those claims do you have to rework or follow up on? So out of the 50 we have 50 claims here.
Yeah. Okay. This is where it gets tricky.
Okay.
If everybody's credentialed correctly in their system, maybe 4 or 5 a week, but that's total practice. So let's call 1 UMR.
Okay.
Okay. But if not, 10.
So 10. Yeah. So which is that more, what's realistic? Like 10 a week?
So this last season we've been in, the last probably 3 months, I think that my office manager is doing 5 or 10 a week.
All right,
now it might be one patient, 4 claims, like that kind of deal, but 5 or 10 a week. So, but then for the year before that, nothing. You know what I mean? So, and then actually maybe for the 2 years before that. And it's been a couple years since we've had this problem with them. And a couple years ago, I was right at the point where I'm like, I'm done. done. And then we had 2 years of nothing. And then here we are again. Speak to that tension a little bit, Jeremy. Like, what do you like? I feel like I have a high endurance for shenanigans because 10
You
doesn't
do.
support a continued relationship, truly.
No, it doesn't.
But then, like the 2 years where everything is fine,
It's
great.
really
You know
fine.
what I mean? It's really fine.
Yeah. So I want to
Yeah.
walk you through the math here. So, and
Yeah.
I appreciate your candor and honesty and
Yeah.
openness here. And you're right. You have a tremendous tolerance for administrative shenanigans. So we have 50 claims a week, and at the upper limit, 10 a week, is those claims need to be followed up on, reworked, or appealed. So if every denial, they say it takes about $25 per denial of a practice expense to rework. So that's $250 a week. If you have to appeal a claim based on recredentialing issues, that's $118 on average to appeal. So you're doing 10 of those. So at the max, you are spending out of the $5,000 a week, you're spending $1,180 to appeal. Now that's worst case. What you just described is worst case scenario.
Yeah.
So out of the 5,000 bucket, I can't do that math in my head. So $1,180 is what you're spending to rework them. So really, that's only $3,820, and that $118 for appeals has to come out of somewhere, right? That doesn't just come out of like Nicole's magic profit land. Like that comes out of somewhere. Then the question is, you have to decide whether or not it's worth risking the $1,200. We'll just round up. You have to decide whether it's worth it to risk the $1,200 of weekly revenue, or if it's worth it to cancel that payer and convert those sessions to either cash or something that you know is more reliable. Now, a 10% denial rate is very high, like generally speaking. I wouldn't tolerate it, but I've seen denial rates as high as 27%.
Yeah.
But 10% is a lot. I mean, you are spending. So, I mean, $1,200 just for like round numbers. Worst case scenario, in a bad year, you're going to spend 52 weeks in a year, $62,400 appealing these claims. Now, Nicole, that's a salary. So
it's a salary. And here's where the dilemma is, Jeremy, is so these are for our newly credentialed therapist that they haven't gotten into their system yet. And it's like this, like in the first 90 days of employment, there'll be like a 30-day period where these are what the denials are. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and it really
so
sucks.
It's not a reoccurring over and over thing. It's completely connected to credentialing paperwork on their end. But I still think it's worth looking at because, like if we're always hiring and we're always like credentialing.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. But you could cut out the UMR credentialing, the appeals, the calls, the denials, and convert that time to spending time on credentialing with a payer that actually makes sense, concentrating your payer mixture in something that's more reliable, or just cash, right? I mean, I don't know what your cash mixture is, but it seems like if you're going to spend, and you're right, so 62,000 is an upper, like a way max terrible year for you in rework and denials and appeals. But even half of that, if we were just to cut that number in half, 31,000, I think you could probably spend like if I gave you $31,000 to grow the practice just in cash, you would do much better than spending it in appeals and denials, is my guess.
For sure.
I would probably drop it and get your 30 grand back.
Yeah, that's good advice. Yeah. Even if I'm aggravated every 2 years for a short period of time, it's like sort of not worth, because when I'm aggravated, I'm really aggravated.
Well, that's true. That's a good point. Plus you got to consider like 10 years of practice, right? So have you been with UMR this whole time?
I have.
Okay. So then you've dealt with 10 years of spending money on denial, rework, frustration that you could have allocated somewhere else. So then the next 10 years should probably look different, is what I would say. Now, if you were, for the sake of conversation, if you were at like 5% or 3%, I might say, that seems like par for the course. 10% is kind of high, right?
Yeah. So, even if it's seasonal, you feel like you wouldn't deal with the seasonal, like not even for a few months.
No. Why?
Yeah.
Why would you do it? And
that's
but
fair.
That's also 10% of your practice, right? Which is not a small number. Yeah. So how would you transition? How would you do that without disrupting patient care?
Yeah. So if we had to do that, we've done it before.
No.
I think the last time we did it was a few years back. We gave them 90 days notice per the contract.
read your contract.
Yeah. And then we let the insurance company know, and then we gave them a reduced rate, like a courtesy fee almost. So something that's slightly below our cash rate or even what their contracted rate previously was. And we just tell them the reason why, and we give them 90 days. And we did that before. About half stayed with us and half referred out.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Yeah.
That's not
Yeah.
bad.
And we also, I like to be really informative in the process. And I typically write a letter that says, here is what your insurance is and is not providing. And here's the people to call with grievances.
Oh, that's good. I mean, yeah, no, I think that's a very smart strategy when you sort of like letting them know what's going on. But I think that's the honesty is the best policy.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
And patients appreciate it.
Yeah. So that's how we would go about it if we did have to do that.
Oh, that's smart.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Okay. So maybe there's some improvement there. Is there a total like built out Asana workflow for dealing with aging follow-up?
Yeah. So there is there is a workflow for it. So we have our like out of network credentialing piece, and then everything else is about 1%. So it's really, really minimal. So that's looked at weekly and worked weekly.
That's awesome. I mean, yeah, you're killing it on the overall. I would say if you're dealing with, I think if UMR is really taking up the bulk of your time there and frustration, I would probably cut it out. That would be a good optimization move to make over the next year, and get anything back, right? Even if you're spending, we can take the lower limit here. I'm just looking at the math I did on my notebook, but $25 per denial, 10 a week, $250 a week. You know, it's still not, it's not nothing, right?
It's not nothing.
250 times 52 is 13 grand, right? Even if you cut that number in half, it's $7,500 that you can use for other things. So plus like the intangibles of the frustration.
Yeah. Where it's sitting for me, like I'm not the one working the bills. Sure. I'm the one that's sitting with the dilemma of, I wasn't anticipating hiring another half of admin until 2027, and now we need another half of that. Like that's where it like sits with me. And yeah, so that's definitely a frustration. I don't want the office manager to be overworked.
Well, and it's not just hiring them, right? It's the taxes and expenses and it's everything that goes into the role to solve something that you should just get paid for.
Yeah,
right.
For sure.
So yeah, I would maybe ponder that as an action item.
I will. Thank you, Jeremy.
This episode is brought to you by Jane, a practice management software and EMR built to support you in the day-to-day work of running your practice. If you're a health or wellness practitioner, you already know the care you provide starts well before your client arrives and extends far beyond the treatment room. Jane is there to support you in every part of that experience. With online booking, your clients can book at a time that works for them. And with features like notifications, they'll even be able to grab last-minute openings when they pop up. It's an easy way to keep your schedule full while getting your clients the care they need. During your appointment, Jane's AI-powered documentation feature can help you thoughtfully take notes so you can stay present with the person in front of you. And after appointments, you can end your time together on a healing note, not a transactional one, by charging the card on file. To learn more about how Jane can support you and your clients, head to jane.app/demo. And one last thing, if you're ready to get started with Jane, you can use my code in the show notes for a 1-month grace period on your new account. But then there's credentialing at reTHINK, and reTHINK credentialing has a very good score, 93%, which is absolutely an A. So can we talk a little bit about how you decided on your payer mixture? Because 5 to 10 plans is not small. So how did you think through, or was it like spaghetti on the wall and then you kind of like took it all back?
Yeah. It certainly was that 10 years ago. Not so much now. So the first qualifier is they have to pay our minimum floor like rate that we've decided per like level. And if they don't cross that, it really, the next thing doesn't even matter. So we have a floor rate for each tier of therapist. We also don't credential everybody in our practice with every insurance panel.
Interesting. Really?
Yes. This is this initially when we did this was Is that the right word to use? Maybe it wasn't initially well received. And then when I said to the therapist, I was like, yeah, I'm happy to keep you on every single insurance panel. Can't pay you more. They were like, you do what you feel's best. And then when the insurance companies said, we want everybody in credentialed, I said, all right, well, we're leaving the network because I can't. Then that was fine. And I actually ended up taking my contract to a lawyer and was like, hey, can they legally require this? And they looked at it and they said, no, they can't. You just have to notify them when you hire somebody new. And so that's sort of what we do. So we don't credential every single person. There are, so like Medicaids, we believe in access of care. Everybody's credentialed with Medicaid.
As a mission-driven decision.
It's a mission-driven decision. But the commercials, they have to meet the floor. And if they don't, then they don't pass. And also when it's come up with the clients, we've said that too, like your insurance pays lower than average. We cannot pay a fair rate to a licensed clinician. So we're just very transparent about those things. And at this point, we've had that conversation for the last 5 years and it doesn't come up anymore. And I think it's because everybody knows. So that's how it sort of all flows. Let me bounce back to the second tier that we ask is, do they pay within 60 days reliably? And if they don't, we don't take them. And the third question is, can you submit through EDI and can you get paid through ERA? And if they don't do that, then we don't take them. So they have to meet those three things. And if they don't, then we don't.
Is that a high bar?
I guess I would say yes, because I would love to work with some employee assistant programs here in Nevada. And I just don't, because they
$50 a session.
Well, not just that, we're not sending paper claims out in 2026. So
like the fax machine.
We're not doing that. So I would say, yes, it is a high bar, but we do have plenty of insurance companies that we are able to work with. And like, if we were to let some go because they were falling outside of that, let's say that 60-day window or high denial, we would be able to continue to fill our caseloads.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Yeah. So yeah. I don't know if that's state specific. I will say that in Nevada, I have felt a little bit more privileged than I have heard some of my counterparts in other states, in that there are not enough providers for the population. So
that's for sure.
You opening a therapy practice in the state of Nevada is just a matter of time before you're going to be full, because there's not enough providers. So I feel like I do feel a little privileged in that way, I guess I would say.
Yeah, there are some, and you may think that urban areas are flush with providers, and that's not true, right? There's the government website that shows where there are healthcare provider shortages.
Yeah.
There are urban centers with a pretty significant shortage. So you can have that benefit regardless of where you are in the country. Yeah. Like, you can live in a city and still get some of the benefit of what Nicole is looking at, but it requires some data. So no, that's great. I was just did a reimbursement report for another guy in Nevada. And the payer we were looking at is one of your payers as well. And the intake rate was under the therapy rate. And his question was, is this normal? And it's like, no, it's not normal. Mm-hmm. That's shenanigans is what we're talking about. Mm-hmm. So, but you've done a very good job negotiating your rates. I mean, it's very clear from the data that I can see anyway, that you hold your standard and they follow it. So that's very interesting, right?
Yeah.
So
thank you.
Your relationships with the payers have been good or acrimonious or?
Yeah. So that's something I would say with credentialing and with rates is, so like I had that like sort of threshold of how to get past. And then I've spent, again, the better part of 10 years trying to develop relationships to the extent that I can with, like people on the other end that you never physically meet. But like something I've done really from the beginning, and this is a hack for anybody that's brand new, like maybe they're leaving like a Alma or BetterHelp, and they want their own contracts, or just getting into it for the first time. I would call someone, get on the phone, no matter what kind of service I got from them, I would get their address and I would send them a Starbucks card. And I would thank them for their help. And for years I did that. And sometimes you develop relationships out of it, but it just feels like things happened because you become memorable to people, and people feel appreciated too, that you've treated them nicely, when most of the time they're just dealing with angry people. So
All the
I
time.
try to be kind, and I try to, if somebody helps me, I try to send them something to the extent that I'm able to. With rates, I've done the same. I will say I call this my $200,000 tantrum. A couple of years ago, I had an insurance company that I wanted to renegotiate rates with. And at that time, I had a couple of providers that were the only X speaking provider in the region. Like nobody else spoke that language. And so I had some like real negotiation points, and they would not budge. And I threw the biggest fit, like
Nicole.
the biggest adult child fit about it. I was never unprofessional, but I went on beyond what was reasonable in negotiations to the point where like they just stopped communicating with me. And that's not previously how I negotiated. I would always like just sort of play the game.
Mm-hmm.
And I have since regretted that deeply because it's the longest period I've had where I've not been able to renegotiate rates. And so even though I had a point, I wish I had just stopped where that point of tension hits with negotiation and re-upped in a few months from now, as opposed to just continuing to double down to the point of like having people just not respond.
They're just ghosting you. Oh,
Yeah. So
it's a good lesson.
relationships are key.
Yep. And I think what you'll find is that at the human level, the people that make those decisions, they really just want to do their job, right?
For sure.
So-
Yeah. And why I call it last year was my $100,000 mistake. This year it's my $200,000 mistake. And next year it'll be my $300,000 mistake, because every year that goes by that we don't have a raise, that mistake becomes a bigger one in my mind.
wow.
So like it was a huge lesson for me. And from that point on, I was like, really with the team that's interacting with billing, I was like, I don't care what happens. There is not a reason to become unprofessional. Like
That's sweet.
that would be like be an instant disciplinary action for us, just
Okay.
because those relationships are so crucial.
They are crucial. Well, thank you for sharing that. That's very honest. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Great feedback. Getting back to credentialing timelines. So it seems like you have a very dialed in high resolution image on credentialing.
Mm-hmm.
What's the lag time to level set not only like what happens at reTHINK, but level set folks in private practice from hire to payment from insurance company? What is that gap in terms of time?
So I'll take you through the whole process. The short answer is with some insurances 30 days, and with other insurances 90 to 120 days.
Wow.
So
That's
it
a long
sort
time.
of depends. So how we do hiring is, again, culturally for reTHINK, it became a cultural norm a few years ago that offer to start is 8 weeks. And again, at the time, we got a lot of pushback from that, but now it's become culturally acceptable here, and, sort of words has gotten out that that's how we do things. We're a salary pay practice, so we can't afford to have somebody sit on our payroll for 4 months while we're waiting. We can do 30 to 60 days, but we can't do more than that. And in that 30 to 60 days, they're taking on other insurance. They just won't be fully paneled until that point. So what we do is we send the offer, they accept it, they immediately come in for a credentialing meeting. That happens within 2 days of the offer being accepted and signed.
Right away.
The credentialing meeting is, they fill out all the paperwork that we need. They give access to the CAQH, they give Medicaid access, and then that becomes, the director of operations is who's doing credentialing right now. Her number one priority, unless the building is on fire, there's a customer service issue right in front of her, or there's an HR issue, her number one priority is to credential. And so she gets that and she does it immediately. So from the time we give them the job to the time credentialing is in play is about 3 to 4 business days.
I have a question.
Started. Yeah.
And we don't have, we could talk about this for a long, long time, but at the Group Practice Scaling Summit, you talked about values-based hiring, and you really flashed out at that conference a robust hiring strategy that connects the right people with your practice. And if anybody's interested, Nicole is like the person to go to. could you collect credentialing information along the way? Like if you know someone is very likely going to take a job, why wouldn't you collect it at one of the interviews that you have?
Yeah, that's a good question. There's a couple reasons for that. So first, with our pre-licensed therapists, so 2/3 of the folks that we hire are pre-licensed. They're oftentimes interviewing with us a month or two before they graduate. So they don't have a license in hand. And so without a license, we can't really do much. Though what we do is we prompt them to get an NPI number if they don't. So we're looking that up after interview 1. Do they have an NPI number? And we're also making sure that they're at the correct process with getting licensed so that they can get licensed as soon as possible once they graduate. I think that with the licensed folks, those are the ones that end up at 30 days credentialed. And so we don't have a need to as much because by the time they walk in the door, they're often credentialed. So that's probably the reason why. Yeah. So by the time folks walk in the door, typically licensed people are credentialed with all of their paneled insurance or all but one. And the interns typically have Medicaid and they incident to Aetna, Cigna, and then they're waiting on just like in Nevada interns can be on a couple of commercial panels.
Very smart. Yeah, it's a good policy. And that's not universal either. That's a state by state, ask your lawyer kind of situation.
Yeah. Oh, I'll say the other thing that we did too. This was one of those things like as a business owner, you're like, ooh, wonder how this is going to turn out, but let's give it a go. So one of our insurance companies, they went from credentialing in literally 7 days to 120 days almost overnight.
Holy smokes.
So it really changed our workflow a lot. So what we did is we could fill up in part with cash pay in our incident too, but not full. We were dependent on this other panel. So we started having the client sign a document that said, we're going to do a sliding scale to what your copay will be when this person becomes credentialed. Mm-hmm. So in the first 90 days, many of our pre-licensed are seeing clients that are only paying $20 or $30 a session. And I was like, man, that's a huge loss. They're doing their salary pay and they're not doing anything otherwise. And then the moment they're credentialed, typically we can back bill. It's backdated and then we could back bill all of those.
It's very smart. See, that's a good strategy, right? I mean, if you're credentialing, you need to make sure that that's something you need to ask about that, right? Otherwise, you're just leaving 120 days of claims on the table. Mm-hmm. Which could be gigantic for some people.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
That's smart.
And kick back to our original, those are the ones that are the out of network that we're fighting. So it's not a perfect process, but but it's one that does produce revenue. But yeah.
Yeah, right. And that's good. I mean, it should produce revenue. The question is it as good as it could get, right? Yeah. And that's the bigger question. All right, we don't have a lot more time.
Yeah.
So you had like a perfect HR score, which I'm not surprised by given what you presented at Group Practice Scaling Summit. What role does your hiring process for admin, billing, credentialing, like do you apply the same process to hiring a clinician that you do those other roles?
Yeah. Yeah, okay. Everybody goes through the same hiring process. So I think the reason our hit rate is low is because the therapists are trained to do a good, clean claim. So they don't submit it, but we have a pretty simplified coding system. We're only using 5 codes. So because we're only using 5 codes, we're able to train the therapist on, you use these 5 codes, this is what you use, right? And so that's a part of their onboarding process. And then the biller audits it to make sure that it's correct.
Now, is your biller auditing, like, for example, do you put like the exact time the session started on the note and then the exact time it ended? What does that look like?
No, but that's auto populated. So like a 908-37, if it said, 9 a.m. to 9:53, the biller's not auditing that piece of it, but that would flag under the clinical soup.
Okay, got it.
So if that was incorrect, she would see it on her auditing.
But your clinicians do that, right? You said you're a compliance you're a stickler for compliance, but that's something you guys do, like exact times, start and stop.
Yes. Yeah. So the way I think it's set up is that, it auto-populates the correct time. And if it were like, because they have we have to co-sign all the notes for pre-license, so they're having eyes on that. And then
Very
the biller
smart.
is auditing to make sure. I think it's mostly making sure that, like, if we do a 9901 for weekend, if it was a
Yep.
weekend.
Mm-hmm. Oh, right. I'm billing those on Monday.
Yeah. And then auditing to make sure if there's an off, that one's on file and we could bill that, making sure that but again, it's so easy to audit now because everything auto populates as compared to 10 years ago.
It's true.
If there's a 95 or a GT code for
Yep.
Tela, that those are correct. Those are primarily what she's auditing.
Yeah. And those also can have an impact on your reimbursement rates as well. So you got to be really careful there. I mean, you guys are doing really well. And the name of the game for you, Nicole, is how do I protect and maintain what you have, right? Because I can see the rates in the rate comparison tool that we have. We can see from your evaluation that you're doing really well. So the name of the game is compliance in a lot of ways, right? Like just keep what you have and defend it as much as you can. So what's got you excited over the next 12 months that reTHINK is working on?
I think what's really exciting is being able to, so we're not going to replace our intake team with a bot ever, because our mission statement is literally to be present with people. And I feel like that's rough to do if there's not an actual person there.
Yeah.
But I'm really excited to leverage AI so that our admin can be more present with the people that are in front of them, leveraging AI or automation to help with like menial tasks that don't necessarily require their bandwidth. And I'm also really excited to renegotiate rates with some of the insurance companies with your new tool that you put out.
Nice.
That shows transparency on whatever
on everybody,
area. Because as you mentioned, I do think we're doing okay, but I have seen that we could be doing better, and that excites me a lot.
That's awesome.
The idea of being able to renegotiate more and maybe not have a $300,000 mistake.
Oh, I love it.
So that's what has me most excited.
Yeah. Well, where do people get more Nicole in their life?
If you want to get in touch with me, I have a consulting business where I work with group practice owners. Right now, I'm really focused on hiring, how to do great hiring through leveraging AI, though I have a lot of stuff on efficiency and how to create systems that give you great oversight as a leader and with leaders leading leaders. My consulting site is reTHINK Your Practice.
I love it. It'll be down below. Hit it for sure. Well, Nicole, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to talk, and good luck on everything over the next year, and you and I will talk down the road for sure.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks, Jeremy.
If you enjoyed today's episode of The Claim Game, please take a moment to leave us a rating and review wherever you listen to your podcasts. It really helps new listeners to find us. Make sure you never miss an episode by subscribing to The Claim Game on your favorite podcast app. Your feedback means so much to us. We want to provide valuable education about revenue cycle management. So if there's something we didn't cover in our topic that was a burning question for you, please let us know so we can try to get you the information you desire. You can find the links to all resources we mentioned in this episode in the show notes. And if you want to dive deeper into our resources, we have two places you can do that. First, you can go to our blog at practicesol.com/blog, where we have 8 years of educational blogs. If you want to learn more about what Practice Solutions does, reach out. We'd love to hear from you. Just go to practicesol.com to learn more and to connect with one of our awesome people on our team. Thanks for listening. We are Jeremy and Catherine Zug, and this is The Claim Game. See you at the game table next time.